I don't love lying into the mirror, and that is why I don't love affirmations. 'Cause for high achievers especially, these don't really stick. And I want to talk about why. Now, if you're a high achiever, you are probably very action oriented. You love tools, you love frameworks, you love solving things. And so once you start to realize this whole world of mindset and how your beliefs are causing some of the more unhealthy patterns in your life and your career, you will think to yourself, okay, let me fix that. Let me just change my mindset. Let me get rid of those unhealthy beliefs that are causing these things. Let me think differently. But belief change does not work like that. You cannot logic yourself out of something that you believe at your core. And you definitely cannot pressure or bully these beliefs into disappearing. That is what we call repression, which doesn't have a great track record. And so today we're going to talk about why affirmations don't work and what actually does. Let's get into it. Hi, I'm Chris. I'm a career and mindset coach. And for the last 9 years, I've worked with driven, capable people who look successful on the outside and yet feel pressured, stuck, and unfulfilled on the inside. So let's start by talking about why affirmations don't work, especially for high achievers. Now, first and foremost, I am not anti-positive thinking. I am anti-generic platitudes. And that is the difference. Because affirmations, as we typically think about them, they're things that just say the opposite of whatever it is you're struggling with. So for example, if you're struggling with worrying about other people's opinions of you, an affirmation in that instance would be just staring in your mirror and saying, I don't care what people think of me. Very grand and generic. But here's where it goes wrong. After you say that into your mirror, most likely what happens is your brain says, yeah, you do. What are you talking about? You very much worry about what people think of you. And that disconnect is why affirmations don't typically work. Because if it is something that we do not believe at a conceptual level, at our core, then no amount of telling ourselves that this is true is actually going to stick. Our brain doesn't update what it thinks based on information. It does it from evidence. And that is the basis for what we talk about as neuroplasticity, rewiring our neurons and the way we think based on continued practice and exposure. And that is an important context within the background of all of this work that we're talking about today. For high achievers, we often see this added layer because these people are very used to pushing and pressing and using effort as a solution for everything. And so when it comes to trying to change their beliefs and the way they're thinking, and these affirmations aren't working, they don't think to themselves, maybe the affirmation is flawed. They think to themselves, maybe I am flawed. Maybe I'm not trying hard enough. Maybe I just need to push more, which never in the history of the world has led to something good. You cannot willpower your way into believing something. So if you do want to change your beliefs, we have to start by understanding how they form in the first place. Your beliefs, your little mental rules that you've made up about yourself and people around you and your career and all of those things that kind of run in the background telling you how to look at the world, all of those things form through repetition and reinforcement. That's it. If we have 10 years of proof saying overextending leads to job security and promotions, and doing the most and saying yes gets me praised and beloved by the team, then your brain starts to encode that as truth. You have this seed and this belief planted, and you have enough repetition and reinforcement that you've watered this seed metaphorically, and it's sprouted into something that's taken up a lot of weight and belief in your brain. Not because it is necessarily 100% logical, it's just because that concept has been reinforced. And so the visual I want to explain to you today is this mental balance sheet. And this is how I explain belief change to my clients. Because if we are using that example belief of, I have to say yes to everything and be the most amenable to succeed in my career. If we have, those instances of people saying, oh my gosh, you're the most valuable person on the team. I don't know what we'd do without you. Anytime I need anything, I come to you. And you have the proof of actual tangible promotions and climbing and wins, then you have a lot of proof on that side of your mental balance sheet. And then if we try to counter this belief by just grabbing a sticky note, sticking it on the mirror and saying, I deserve balance, of course the left side's going to win. We can't just undo these things that we believe. We can't just undo this proof. What we have to do is start chipping away and weakening this evidence and start adding believable evidence to the right side of our balance sheet. That is the whole game. Not replacing the things we think, but rebalancing. And so if you actually want to change your beliefs and rewire them in a meaningful way, here are the 3 levers you need to focus on. So lever 1, custom reframe. And this is really the anti-affirmation. Affirmations say bold, generic things like that. I don't care what other people think. Reframes alternatively say something that you at your core believe is true. And yes, stretches you in the direction of saying, I don't care what people think, but does it in a way that you can buy into. So for example, instead of saying, I don't care what people think, your reframe might say something like, I can't control what people think, nor is it my responsibility to. And do you see the difference between those two things? An affirmation is so grand that it feels like it's stretching you too much. A reframe is just stretchy enough. It's something that you still do cognitively believe in your heart of hearts, but it is not so stretchy that your brain's going to say, no, BS, I don't believe that. That is the first lever we want to consider, building reframes that are just stretchy enough. Lever 2. Proof. And so as we said with this mental balance sheet visual, beliefs change when we gather additional data to kind of right the scales. And so once we've built this healthier reframe, you'll start to add proof. So this could be past experiences like sitting and writing out, here are all the times when I've tried to control other people's opinions and it failed miserably. Those times when even though you did the most, people were still not pleased with you. And we want to continue to gather proof by practicing this. So maybe it's the little instances of like, I didn't say yes immediately, and oh my gosh, the world didn't fall apart. We want to continue to add those things, both looking at your past and looking at your present, because over time, we will kind of outweigh these things. And that comes back to this idea of neuroplasticity and building healthier neural pathways based on consistently practicing this zone. And then the third lever we have to think about when it comes to rewiring beliefs is repetition and compassion. Because what I am going to tell you is beliefs will flare up. We will start to hear our head trash again. So many clients I've worked with over the years worry about this because they think that beliefs coming back up mean something about them, but it doesn't. That's just the fact that this belief has its claws in you deep. You've had a ton of practice and you've had a ton of proof over this over years. So yeah, it's not going to change in a day. We just want to see it as, oh, this happened. Okay, clearly I need to practice a little more here. We don't change a belief by thinking differently once. We change it by continually collecting evidence so that it gets so strong that eventually we barely hear that head trash. But it's not immediate. We are not looking for forced positivity. We are not looking for gaslighting ourselves and pretending everything is fine. We are talking about updating a system of thinking through repetition, through exposure, through proof, and looking at actually outgrowing a belief instead of trying to just convince ourselves it doesn't exist. So for those of you who are still with me, I want you to start by picking one belief you identified last week and asking yourself, what is a healthier reframe that starts to chip away at it? Something that you cognitively believe is true, even if you don't always remember it. Write it down in a way that feels true to you, that feels just uncomfortable enough that when you read it, you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, I think that's true, even though it's kind of uncomfy. And then I want you to try reading it every morning for the next week before you start your day. See how you feel and tell me in the comments. Because my friend, you do not need better affirmations. You need evidence based on stuff you believe that actually works in your favor. So next week, I'm going to walk you through what this actually looks like in real time. I'll give you a live demo of how we take one belief and go through and chip away at it. So be sure to come back for that. And if this is resonating, what you're really seeing is just one piece of a bigger pattern. Affirmations don't work because they're trying to bypass the deeper pressure that is driving your overachiever patterns in the first place. And so if you want to understand that underlying system that you're trying to bypass, this overachiever pressure, why it forms, how it becomes an identity, and the steps to actually unwind it without losing your drive, I have an entire workshop that I'll link in the description below. It walks you through the Achievers Reset pain point and framework and the complete process. So I'll drop that in the description. And if you're watching this and thinking to yourself, yeah, okay, I see why affirmations haven't worked for me, tell me in the comments. We can create a reformed affirmations hater club. I'll look into getting t-shirts. So as always, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you next week. Bye.